Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys, and we're going to be bullshitting about some old games. Well, actually, newer releases for old game series. Well, one doesn't even qualify as series. Well, let's just get into this. I am the Reverend.
The Bean here.
Gray Mouse 1.
When you go ahead and you think about games that are titles that people love and, you know, are historical titles or landmark titles that have been released out on older retro consoles, 16-bit, 8-bit, 32-bit or older, you usually think about these iconic classics that people are like, oh yes, I'd love to see that remastered. I'd love to see that re-released again. You have stuff that like, for the Super Nintendo, Earthbound, people are killing, die for a digital re-release of that, and which happened for the Wii U and also the 3DS, for the eShop and all of that. And then there are other games that are out there, like, we would die for like some of the older Capcom titles that were released out on like the Sega Saturn or the Dreamcast or things like that to go ahead and be released out. We'd love to see that. Talking about Sega games or Sega games on disc, if Konami was still in the game business and they decided to go ahead and release out a digital version of Snatcher, I would kill for that. I would love that. But what we have in front of us right now is a digital re-release and remaster of a game that isn't good. It's infamous, but it's definitely not good. Dubbed the most controversial game of 1992. We are talking about Night Trap. All right, now Night Trap, if you're uninitiated, all right, and I don't expect everybody watching this video to know. A lot of you guys may not have been, old enough to go ahead and realize this game even existed at the time, or you may not even been born if you're watching this particular video. This particular game, when it came out 25 years ago, was actually the reason why the ESRB, that and Mortal Kombat, are the reasons why the ESRB and the whole game rating system exists today. What Night Trap was that it was this horrible full-motion video game that was on the Sega CD, which, as far as full-motion video goes, out of all the platforms that existed back 25 years ago, the Sega CD was probably the least capable out of all of them. So you have this horrible 240p grainy video, all right?
240p.
That's because that's what the resolution was, all right? Of what was basically, you were a guy looking through these security cameras. You're trying to activate these traps to capture these alien monsters who were invading a sorority dormitory, right? A sorority party, right? Where they would sit there and kidnap and capture these young women, right? And then you had to sit there and you had to spring traps in order to go ahead and stop them from capturing and torturing these women and everything like that. Suffice it to say, the landscape in video games back in 1992 wasn't anywhere near as accepting of the media as it is now. And it caused a huge uproar. I mean, there was this, parents were blaming it for AIDS and everything else. They were blaming it for their sons going out of their way, trying on their underwear and everything. They were blaming it for like every ailment and social ill that was under the fucking sun back in 1992. That and Mortal Kombat. Okay, how Mortal Kombat gave people cancer and shit like that was way beyond me. But they still blame Mortal Kombat for it. All right, like I said, because of the content, that's what brought out the ESRB ratings. Now, why am I going on this long diatribe? Like I said, at the beginning of this particular video, out of all the games out there, this is probably the last one I would expect to get a remaster and re-release. But lo and behold, it's getting a remaster and a re-release, and it's going to be released out, I believe, in 2018 for both the PS4 and XBox One. No, it's going to be released out later on this year because it's its 25th fucking anniversary. for the PS4 and Xbox One. Guys, what are your thoughts on this particular one? This one doesn't make too much sense to me.
There are classics, there are great games, and then there's this. Taking nothing away from the technology and what we had 25 years ago. I mean, come on. How many Atari flashbacks are there? You know, if you're really going to go there as far as rehashing, you know, terrible games, classic is one thing, and then there's cult classics and outdated and things that weren't technically good at all. I'm surprised they didn't try to do a mobile version of this first.
You know, the funny thing is that the size of the ROM on this is probably only around, I don't know, it can't be larger than a few hundred megabytes big, all right? Because it fit on one CD, okay?
Yeah, because you can go on this thing at this point, and you could fit a bunch of them on there. I mean, it doesn't make too much sense. What about you, Gray Mouse? Can they redo the game and make it longer?
No, they didn't do that. But what it does look like now, it does look like it's actually in full 480p, you know, progressive scan. It is fully remastered and everything like that.
Imagine playing Night Trap in 4K.
I'd rather not.
How do you get a response?
Yeah, I'd rather not. What about you, Gray Mouse? What are your thoughts on this particular one?
I think what the theme said a few minutes ago about a classic and a cult classic. You know, the whole purpose of a cult classic is that it's not any good. It's so bad that it ended up being good. It's cringeworthy, I guess. And that's what this is. And what's really interesting is that I find that they're remastering. They had all these other games to remaster, and they decided to do this one. Blows my mind. You go back 25 years, there's a lot of games back then that need remasters, but they chose this one. And one thing too is, like you said, it was one of those games that actually, thanks to this game in Mortal Kombat, you know, you have your rating system now. And if you go back and look at footage of that game of Night Trap, you look at it and you're like, this is what they considered violence back then. I mean, look at the games now. Look what was just released, you know, a couple of months ago.
Not even a couple of months ago. Just sit there and, like I said, go ahead and compare it to something like Grand Theft Auto 4.
No,
okay.
But look, I mean, in comparison, you got games like Doom. But Doom
didn't use digitized people. That's where it comes.
No, actually, it was live action.
Yeah, no, he means digitized actors and stuff like that. When they digitize the live action video and stuff like that.
You know, Mortal Kombat, you know, they use digitized actors, and then they use full motion video. They don't have that in Grand Theft Auto. They don't have that in all these other games here.
But as far as content goes, you know, when it comes to mature content, you know, they have that in spades over, I don't know, so I've got this college chick running around in the dorm with these guys who look like throwaway putty masks from the fucking Power Rangers, you know, putting a dog collar on them.
That was my initial thoughts when I looked at that trailer again. I was like, those look like putty.
Yeah, you know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. Like I said, you know, this one is just really, really odd. The only thing that makes sense is that it's a 25th anniversary, all right? But if we're thinking about a lot of things that, like, are on a Sega CD, which, you know, a lot of the full motion video games, granted, full motion video games in general from the early 90s, god awful. Okay, just really god awful. Very few of them had very redeeming qualities. But if you're going to go out of your way and do like the remasters of full motion video games on the Sega CD, there's a shitload of other things to go ahead and choose, like Revenge of the Ninja, Time Gal, Mega Race. You know, there's a shitload of them out there to go ahead and choose, but they went ahead and they did Night Trap.
What, Scottie Pippen's Slam City?
No. Yeah, that's just in the god awful pile. All right, I'll throw that there with Crisscross and NXS Music Maker. Okay.
Mark?
Yes, I'll throw.
Mark.
I'll throw that all in that same pile. Okay.
So Night Trap is at least a cult classic. That it was so bad, but at least it gets appreciated for what they tried. Slam City and Mark, nobody wants to see that shit ever again.
Well, what about food? Nobody wants to see that shit.
Great Mouse. That
I'm just saying.
My mind.
I'm just saying.
Well, no, that entered my mind before you said it, and I'm like,
I'm just saying.
But
nobody wants to see that shit, and that shit is not a cult classic.
But back to what we're talking about. All right, you know, shit. I mean, you know, in this regard, I'm even tempted to sit there and think about like maybe fucking give me Supreme Warrior and fucking Prize Fighter. I might even settle for fucking Sewer Shark. Really, you know.
I was gonna say Sewer Shark. Sewer Shark, yeah.
Wait.
That and Tomcat Alley.
Prize Fighter? Are you serious?
As far as something realistic that might actually benefit from a remaster, you know, it's just, yeah. I'm just saying. All right. I think suffice it to say that just like I said, the only thing that makes sense about this is that it's the 25th anniversary. That's it. Okay. Other than that,
couldn't you do it on mobile? They couldn't do it on mobile. They had to put it on a console.
Whoever is going out of their way to do this, is, I guess they're really ambitious, you know.
Moving on.
Really.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
You know. But that's not to say that all the game news that's come out that we're willing to go ahead and talk about in this particular video here is all of the nonsensical sort. Actually, this one might be, but I don't think it's that far of a stretch. Earlier this month, on the 24th, actually, excuse me, on the 19th, it was discovered that Bandai-NAMCO filed a brand new trademark for Pac-Man Maker. Okay? Now, with this particular one, I think this is one of those trademarks where, you know how a lot of games get leaked out and a lot of like hardware gets leaked out by either patent filings or trademark filings, and people always go into, oh, what's this mean? What can this be? You know, what can be involved here? I think with this particular one, it's pretty straightforward what's involved in this particular fucking game, all right? Now, whether or not there's actually going to be a game attached to it, I know we've said this before when we cover trademarks and all of that. This doesn't guarantee that there's ever going to be a game attached to it. But when you put together Pac-Man, that's pretty clear. Everybody has a pretty, you know, good understanding of what that involves, right? And then Maker on the end, that's pretty clear too. I think we have a good understanding about that. I think, you know, if Bandai Namco wants to go ahead and they want to put out, you know, something, some sort of package for things that modders have been doing for over 30 fucking years, you know, I say, well, okay, thank you. What do you guys think?
Well, what if it's a Pac-Man Maker for something like Pac-Land or Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures, where you used a fucking slingshot and you pointed where Pac-Man needed to go, and that, yeah.
If they make it a light gun game, I'm all over that. If not, fuck you, okay? Go ahead.
But look, a Pac-Man Maker, That sounds very interesting. If this comes to fruition, fine. If it doesn't, all right. But I would be so interested in that, to create some shit. I would. I'd be interested in that. Just don't make it like Pac-Land or Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures.
What about you, Grey Mouse? What are your thoughts on it?
I think that it's just a patent that was filed by Namco. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is that they got to tread lightly here, simply because of the word maker at the end of it. Because there's a gray area, because Nintendo kind of got that on wrap, Maker, as Mario, or Mario Maker. Or it could be just proof that maybe Nintendo's expanding out to their third party, and so this would probably be only on the Nintendo console if it's a Maker. I don't think the other two would get it, like the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. For that
Nintendo
matter.
didn't trademark that word specifically.
No. I know. I got that. I understand.
Yeah, they trademarked and they copyrighted, Super Mario Maker.
That's why I said gray area there. But for me, it's just okay for me. I'm not thrilled, and I'm not really disappointed in that news either. Creating your own design or your own mazes for Pac-Man, as long as it stays true to Pac-Man or like Pac-Man DX type of gameplay, I'm happy about it. But if you go, off of the scale, kind of like what the Atari 2600 did, and just like that, no. I'm just saying, we don't need crap like that, or or slingshots like you were saying earlier, where Pac-Man's supposed to go via fucking Angry Birds. No, that's not Pac-Man.
So okay, the Atari version, the octagonic, hexagonic Pac-Man wasn't even a real circle. You got combo pretzels to eat instead of fruit. You had square power pellets and rectangular pills, and that dump 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 sound. And someone's gonna make that. If this game comes out, someone's actually gonna redo that and actually fucking put that out as a stage.
I think like on previous videos on this channel, on these channels, just because somebody files a patent, that doesn't mean anything. That just what they're trying to do is, it's just that, okay, we have a patent for this, and whether they decide to use it later is up to the publisher or the owner of the IP. In this case, Namco.
I actually got stuck in a tunnel on the Pac-Man Atari version.
I'm with this news. We'll just see what happens.
I got to say that with this particular one, like I said, the news is pretty straightforward. I'm pretty sure. Here's one of the things with Pac-Man. It's one of those IPs where you could do almost anything with it. Almost anything. Theme already mentioned. The Adventures of Pac-Man and Pac-Land 2 and all of that other shit. Like I said, you can do almost anything with Pac-Man and it will work. When you sit there and you open it up to allow tools outside of the corporate confines and outside of the general developer confines, and you ask fans to go ahead and fuck around with it, you can get some pretty interesting things. The stuff that showed up for Mario Maker, as far as the fan-made levels and everything else, some of the stuff was ingenious. Some of the stuff was like, oh wow, why the fuck didn't anybody think about that before? And as a result, the rest of the Mario titles got a lot more interest. People were like, okay, so where did they draw the inspiration for this particular one? Oh, hey, maybe I'm a newbie fan, and I've seen Mario in all of his newer incarnations of where he's a 3D fucking model and he's not a sprite. Maybe I'll be driven to go ahead and look at the older titles to see where all of this inspiration is drawn from. I think this is a good thing. Whether or not people actually do any, whether or not Bandai Namco actually does something, or if they're just protecting their intellectual property, like Grey Mouse pointed out, is something that remains to be seen. But heck, if it does hit the market, okay, whether or not it's on the Switch or any of the other consoles or anything like that, I don't see anything but good things coming from this. All right. And in fact, I've already got an idea in my mind of, like, if you fuck around with the mechanics of stuff, like I've seen, like, in some of the Mario Maker levels, enemies having with those fire sticks attached to them, like chasing Mario down through a fucking stage. I was thinking, like, maybe going ahead and making a map or a stage on a maze on Pac-Man, but the way that the power pellets work is that they're attached to the ghosts, and that the ghosts can go ahead and swap them, so that they're going to be moving all around the fucking map also.
Have you guys need to play or even see Pac-Man Championship Edition 2?
I haven't. I haven't sat down with it yet.
It's pretty out there.
Yeah,
it is.
But I think if we thought about, like, the creative minds who went ahead and did that sort of thing, and we opened it up by 10,000 times, literally to the number of fans who sit there and will potentially buy a game, the upside to this is really fucking phenomenal. Especially if the tools are easy and simple enough, you know. And guess what? It's not like you have to do complex math or figure out complex physics for fucking Pac-Man. There are pellets, he eats pellets. There are ghosts, he cannot touch the ghosts until he eats a power pellet, okay? And they turn blue, all right? It's rather straightforward.
They turn violet, bluish, purple out of fear. No matter where he eats this motherfucking pit, no matter where they are. That's the thing. They don't even know where you are. They feel the power when you eat that pellet.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think going on and jumping down that rabbit hole would probably end up with us rambling on for another 20 minutes, and I don't think we need to go ahead and do that at this point. Really, you know, there's some other video game news that we're probably going to go ahead and touch, but a lot of that happens to deal with criticisms about specific companies that we just don't want to get into in this particular video. That's the reason why we're going to dedicate whole videos to it. But with these two particular pieces of news, Night Trap getting a re-release and Pac-Man Maker, you know, being hit with, you know, Namco Bandai hitting up a trademark for Pac-Man Maker and everything else. These are interesting tidbits. You know, the both of them interesting for their own reasons. One of them being very good, the other one just being, what the fuck, right? And at this point, I think we're all pretty much in the consensus with this. This is pretty much how the week has gone. What we really want to know, folks, is what are your thoughts on these two particular subjects? What do you think about the 25th anniversary of Night Trap, the most infamous game from 1992 that caused the ESRB to go ahead and come along and and be put into inception and to be established along with Mortal Kombat? I always have to go ahead and add that caveat on. And also the fact that Bandai Namco went ahead and registered Pac-Man Maker as a brand new trademark. You think that's a good thing? We would like to know what your thoughts are on it, so leave us a comment below. While you're at it, hit like, hit subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it if you do. We are the Middle-Aged Guys, and all our bullshit on Pac-Man Maker and the 25th anniversary re-release of Night Trap. And right here, I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
And Grey Mouse 1.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming. There better not be a fucking digitized Shaq or live action. No, they better not fucking do that. Right.